Hey guys, coming up on the show today, Samsung get into the headset market, but do we care?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
This is Double Tap, where blind people talk tech. Here's Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Do we care about the Samsung headset market? Okay.
What are we talking about? Of course we do.
Okay, all right, well, we'll get into that. We're going to get into that today. We do have a lot of news to get into.
Double Tap News.
Yeah, let's dive right in because the big story of the day, of course, was that major outage which took down most of the internet. People were forced to go outside, talk to each other, touch grass, I believe the children say.
I believe they do, yes. Get in touch with our feels. I hated it. Can I just say that?
Feedback at doubletaponair.com. Is that what people say? Touch grass? Is that a thing? What if you don't have grass? What if you have, say, paved outdoors? Slabbing, perhaps.
Yeah. Or artificial. Doesn't matter. Yes, we were able to go outside and leave the internet behind because it wasn't available. It was a glimpse into a terrible dystopia, if you ask me.
I have to be honest. It depends who you're listening to, right? It was like the end of the world is nigh, which it is anyway. Let's just get that out there. The internet going down just makes us notice it. That's all. But yeah, Amazon Web Services, and that is absolutely the view of AMI.
Everything's fine.
I feel we're going to get a call any minute now. Yeah, any minute now.
So sorry, Mr. F.
But yeah, so the internet goes down. Amazon Web Services, were they at fault for this? Was that the issue? What happened?
Ooh, well, throw me under the bus. Well, they were the reason a lot of services went down because so many apps and services rely on Amazon's web. But basically, it's cloud computing. So many apps are hosted on Amazon's computers. Many services rely on them for various different things. And when their computers go down, it takes all these services down with them. Now, whether they were at fault or not, we don't entirely know the reason why there was a problem. They have said it was a DNS, domain name server problem, which means, we're looking for Zoom, for example. Yep. So it goes to AWS and tries to find the address. And it says, I don't know. And you get rejected. So there was a DNS problem is what they're saying so far. But what caused it? Was it simply a update that went wrong? Or is there a hack behind it? We don't know yet.
Yeah. Probably too early to tell. And I guess it's funny because I saw someone write this on, I think it was on X this morning. And it's so true. They said, okay, so a lot of companies, like 1,000 companies are affected here because they rely, as you say, on Amazon Web Services. What does Amazon Web Services rely on? And should we be worried about that? Because ultimately, there has to be, I guess, reliance along the way. So, what happens when this all falls apart? And we're starting to realize, and this is not the first time, of course, the Cloudflare incident that happened, what was that, last year?
Yeah. That's right. That took down a load. And there has been a lot of conversation about this now, as you just said. I mean, the three main players are Amazon with their AWS. There's Microsoft with their Azure cloud computing. And Google, obviously, as well. We've got a huge resource of computers available. Those are the three main providers. And a lot of people do use Amazon. And the questions being asked now is, you've got all your eggs in one basket here. If, as was shown, if one of these services goes down, what do you do? A lot of these, so much of the internet now is almost an essential service.
Yeah.
It can have a huge impact, as it did. So, yeah, there is a lot of talk about country specific. I know there was talk about the UK spinning up its own cloud computing service to compete with AWS.
Great British Internet.
Yes, what could possibly go wrong? I have
to say, we are very good at clouds in the UK. So we've got plenty of them.
Grey clouds,
rain clouds. Yeah. So if we've certainly we have plenty of clouds hanging around, so we could probably put them to use.
But you know what? An MP brought that bill to government and said, we should do this, and the response was, why? We've got Amazon.
Yeah.
So the thinking is they're so big now. All of these three are so big that everyone uses them. Why would you why would you try and make your own? Well, this is one reason, just for keeping it up. Basically, otherwise any of these go down and it's like dominoes. Everything goes down with it.
And, obviously a lot of people are affected by it. In some instances, it's silly things perhaps, or little things like, MyFitnessPal went down, Duolingo. Okay, you can't learn Spanish today. Fair enough. But, it can have impacts on major services. And certainly a lot of big services were hit. But even in our world, we heard that Be My Eyes were having problems connecting users. I'm not going to go so far to say that's life-threatening or any of that, because you wouldn't be using Be My Eyes in that kind of way. But it does, if you come to rely on something like that, you come to rely on that service, perhaps you use it at a set time every day for a particular task, it's really important, and then suddenly you're not able to get access to it. Say you're using an app. I was thinking about Soundscape, because I think they're running off, the Android version, at least on beta at the moment, is running off the AWS platform. I think that's
Wouldn't
right.
surprise me.
I know
probably.
one of them is, either the iOS or the Android one is. It would have been impacted by this. So you imagine walking down the street, next minute, nothing. Suddenly your navigation tools have gone out the window. And I saw someone actually posting last night on Facebook, this is the time we really need to get back to. And I've heard this argument a lot. We in the blind community really need to lean off technology sometimes. And I've heard this argument before, and I've kind of shunned it. I've often thought, yeah, okay, I kind of understand that, but the technology's there, it's good. But when it fails, when it breaks, what do you do? It's why I guess I always carry around a spare cane. I don't want to wait for the day that my cane snaps in half, because as much as we kind of laugh about that kind of thing, when it does happen, when we were with Callum the other day, and if he'd caught his cane in that revolving door and that cane had snapped, what does he do? I mean,
exactly.
Literally, what do you do in that situation? Because the only option is to be taken by the arm to a taxi and home. And if I'm in a different city, as I was at the time, what do you do? It's not like I can pop into Best Buy and pick up a new cane.
You do the slow shoe shuffle, don't you, where you feel with your toes. That's what you do, and it's incredibly slow and awful and uncomfortable.
Well, not from Manchester to Glasgow, though. That's the problem.
Well, you could do.
I mean, I could. Take me a while.
It's about commitment. No, you're right. Look, because I use the word, it's essential services, right? And you could argue life and death. Of course you can. And emergency services rely on a lot of internet as well. So there is that argument. But just for convenience, I mean, I couldn't use because the echoes went down, the smart speakers went down for a while. So I couldn't use my heating. I couldn't use my, doorbells, my security cameras. And you realize that maybe it's not life or death, but it's convenience that is almost essential. It's
convenience
feeling.
And it can be essential, right? So, okay, on one hand, I missed a delivery yesterday. Didn't know why. I was saying to you, or someone said they had been at the door, but they haven't. Well, they obviously had, but the system was down. Because when I'd gone later into the app, it turned out the cameras weren't even available to me to even view. Now, that I would say is inconvenience. But then you think about heating. And as we're moving into winter, and you think, okay, so now we're in a situation where this all goes down. How do you turn your heating on? If you cannot find a way to easily turn on your heating because everything's controlled by an app, you've got a problem.
And it's another reason why, all this smart home devices being controlled through, a third-party server. Again, it's not a great model. We want to be able to control it directly with, if you've got an app on your phone, why do you need an internet connection to turn your heating on or check your cameras? It should be, a local connection.
Yeah.
So, it's just another one of those events which really show our dependence on technology and the internet especially.
Yeah, even Freedom Scientific users. Freedom Scientific reported yesterday that anyone trying to activate a license on the portal wouldn't be able to do that because of issues. And look, again, these might have been sporadic or, intermittent.
Short-lived even?
Short-lived because, ultimately, this was not going to be the case for everybody all the time. We got onto Zoom, but we know many people didn't. I know a lot of the cloud services were down. Of course, it's very different in where you are in the world and even what server you're connecting to, because it's not like you're just connecting to one single computer somewhere. This is all shared out among various machines. I'd sound like I know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just imagine in my head this giant room full of computers just spinning away all the time, and all of them essentially sharing the load between them. I think that's ultimately how cloud works, isn't it?
Why not? Let's go with that.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll go
absolutely. Apparently, it's been pointed at a server farm in West Virginia, I believe.
Almost heaven. Almost,
yes.
But not quite.
That's where the DNS error originated, they're saying. But again, we don't know how.
See, I don't know anything about the cloud stuff or any of the techie stuff, but I can play the silly sound effects and make stupid comments.
That's all we need,
I think that's all we need. In this world today, I think that's all we need. I am indeed a hero.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Did see a lot of posts on Facebook saying, hang on, my night manager's not working. What's going on? This is
come on. That's serious stuff. Okay, so yeah, big story of the day, of course, but as slowly everything's coming back. I mean, there's still reading reports today of some issues as well. So if you are having internet issues along the way, it may well be that some services are still coming back on. It takes a lot of time for it to sort of flush its way through the system, if you like. That's not a very nice way to put it, but
it's accurate. That's
it's
fine.
a very visual image for you there. I hope you appreciate that. Let's talk about Samsung, because they're about to announce a new Android XR headset today. Now, don't get too excited. We're not talking about glasses. Well, we don't think we're talking about glasses.
We don't know.
We don't know, but we do know because of all the rumors. And I have to say, this isn't like an Apple event where there's a lot of rumor and no one knows anything. These companies are very good at leaking out all the information beforehand.
Yes.
Google, Samsung do it all the time. The only company I never hear anything about in a leak is Amazon. Ever. Don't know how they manage it.
Yeah, that's true. I don't
You
think
never
Amazon
hear.
know what they're doing when it comes to products sometimes, though.
Well,
maybe
but
that one.
these new speakers that are coming out end of the month, right? You think I haven't heard a thing about those until they were announced. Nothing.
That's true. You know what I saw the other day was the Amazon subwoofer available again.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that was made available when they first rolled out the ability to stereo pair
That's right.
the Echo speakers. And then it disappeared. You know, like the Echo buttons, like the Echo remote, just disappeared. You couldn't get it anymore. And then just the other day, I was looking to see, what was available. And the Amazon subwoofer came back up. It did say it wasn't available yet, but it was due soon. So maybe they're pushing that back out because of the new 5.1 surround setup that you can do with the new speakers.
I've got one in my loft.
I know. I was going to steal that off you when I came up. That's a shame.
I don't know why. I think at the time, if I remember, could be wrong here, but I think when I bought it at first, my wife and I lived in a flat, and I thought it wouldn't be as bassy as it turned out that it was, and we decided that it was probably a really bad
subwoofer?
idea. Yeah.
How basic could that possibly be?
In a flat with laminate flooring, what could possibly go wrong? The neighbours would have loved it. So I think I decided I'll put it back in the box, take it with us to the new place, and of course, forgot all about it. So yeah, that might be coming your way, because I don't think I'll use it. I don't like a lot of bass these days. I used to love all that, but now I don't know. I like a serene environment.
Yeah, since my neighbour's got a surround sound system for their TV next door, I hate surround sound.
Oh,
That's
really? Is it
all
Jurassic
I hear
Park in your
24/7.
house all
Yes,
night long?
exactly.
Isn't it? That's the only film I'd ever watch in surround sound. I just want to hear the dinosaur bumping
I
about.
know you got to watch Saving Private Ryan. You can hear all those bullets whizzing past
that's
you.
horrendous. No. Jurassic Park, when they're eating the...
Oh, yeah, that's less
Goat or whatever it
horrendous,
is.
of course.
Yeah.
Or a Toy Story. There you go. That's lovely.
Toy Story, there we go.
apparently.
That's nice. Family friendly.
Anyway, Samsung headset. Yes.
Mr. F, where today F stands for family. So Samsung. Samsung are announcing a new Android XR headset today. And the story goes that this headset will have a Snapdragon chip in it. It's also going to have One UI, which is Google and Samsung's kind of morphed, if you like, version of Android in it. 2 4K screens inside, one for each eye, obviously. So we're talking headset here. We're back to what you were talking about with me regarding the Meta glasses. We had the big debate, and you said it's not glasses, it's a headset.
A headset.
This is a headset, absolutely. Now we do have a bit more information on this ahead of time because the event is happening as the show airs today. So we can give you a little bit of an insight into where they're going on today's show because we got the information about this from Google, actually, at their Google I.O. event earlier this year. Here's a little clip of them announcing Android XR and talking about that partnership with Samsung, but also, on top of that, a little bit at the end, a mention of glasses too.
Android XR. It's the first Android platform built in the Gemini era, and it supports a broad spectrum of devices for different use cases, from headsets to glasses and everything in between. We believe there's not a one-size-fits-all for XR, and you'll use different devices throughout your day. For example, for watching movies, playing games, or getting work done, you'll want an immersive headset. But when you're on the go, you'll want lightweight glasses that can give you timely information without reaching for your phone. We built Android XR together as one team with Samsung and optimized it for Snapdragon with Qualcomm. Since releasing the Android XR developer preview last year, hundreds of developers are building for the platform. We're also reimagining all your favorite Google apps for XR. And it's Android after all, so your mobile and tablet apps work too. Let's start with Gemini on headsets. This is Samsung's Project Muhan, the first Android XR device. Muhan gives you an infinite screen to explore your apps with Gemini by your side. With Google Maps in XR, you can teleport anywhere in the world simply by asking Gemini to take you there. You can talk with your AI assistant about anything you see and have it pull up videos and websites about what you're exploring. So many of us dream about sitting front row to watch our favorite team. Imagine watching them play in the MLB app as if you were right there in the stadium, while chatting with Gemini about player and game stats. But that's not all. We're taking our partnership with Samsung to the next level by extending Android XR beyond headsets to glasses. We're creating the software and reference hardware platform to enable the ecosystem to build great glasses alongside us. Our glasses prototypes are already being used by trusted testers, and you'll be able to start developing for glasses later this year. Now, we know that these need to be stylish glasses that you'll want to wear all day. That's why I'm excited to announce today that Gentle Monster and Warby Parker will be the first eyewear partners to build glasses with Android XR.
So that gives you a sense of what's to come today at the Samsung event in particular, but also beyond that in regards to the glasses. That's Google at Google I.O. actually earlier this year talking about Android XR. So, we were excited then, in particular, I think, Shaun, because we heard the word glasses rather than headset.
Yes, of course, yeah. I mean, are you not excited?
Honestly? Look, for the technology, yes. For the people who can benefit from it, absolutely. I don't want to take this away. I think I perhaps, and maybe this week in particular, I don't know, but just this particular moment in time, I'm not feeling the love for visuals at the moment. So the idea of it doesn't really appeal to me.
It's been a tough week already.
Yeah, I'm just not loving it in that sense. So, I don't want to take it away from the people who can love it. And actually, I think about those people with low vision who could potentially benefit from this technology as well. It's going to come in reportedly a lot cheaper than the Apple Vision Pro. Now, currently that's still, I think, staying at $3,500 US. This is going to come in comparatively, so they say, between $1,200 and $1,800 US. So a significant price difference here for this headset. And, the fact that it's an open platform, well, open in the sense like Android is, that, developers can build on it. There's a lot of potential here. Again, that word potential. But there is for a lot of people who have low vision.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that's the excitement for me. I don't care about the hardware, to be honest. A headset, couldn't care less about. You're absolutely right about low vision, the possible benefits there. But it's not that. It's the fact that this is an open platform. So,
finally,
those Android apps that we have for magnification, for example, maybe you could use them on this headset. It's just... To me, it's the same as when Meta announced the API. So seeing AI on the Meta Ray-Ban. This is the same thing. This is the excitement in that we're finally seeing a sort of a loosening of the grip from these manufacturers to developers. So who knows what these could do? The hardware, if it's a headset, no, I'm not excited at all because I'm not going to use it. And even low vision, I'm not entirely convinced would use it. Glasses with a display, totally different.
Well, see, the thing was, when the Vision Pro came out, the first thought I had was all these devices that I've seen over the years at various events that are often very similar to these types of headsets, VR-type helmets or headsets or whatever.
Yes.
Those types of devices are very expensive, often on a par with the price of these headsets, and they will offer you... And I'm thinking about, I'm just naming them, but I'm not really being specific here, just to give people an example. So things like eSight, for example. I think there's one called New Eyes as well, I think it's just actually called Eyes, not New Eyes. That would still a bit unfortunate a name.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I want some New Eyes.
New Eyes, there you go. Congratulations, you've just won New Eyes.
Terrible.
But yeah, I think it was called Eyes was one of the products, and there's many, many others out there, those kind of headset design, made for reading, made for watching TV more easily, all that kind of thing. And I think that the potential here, and I saw it with the Vision Pro, was to, if and Apple didn't, unfortunately, open up the cameras, that was the problem. So because they didn't open the cameras, those apps could never be developed for that platform, and the price put it out of so many people's reach. However, as I've also made the point to many, many sighted people, especially mainstream tech reporters, who say, yeah, but, a blind person's not going to spend $3,500 on a headset. And It's like, I have a Braille display with a laptop keyboard that costs exactly the same amount of money as a Vision Pro.
Yep.
So you tell me, if I'm spending my money today, what would I rather have? Something that can do a whole multitude of things? I'm not saying, I'm not really comparing, that's apples and oranges, to be fair. But it gives you an idea of the fact that we do spend a lot more money in our world, as we do, on specialist technology. If I can spend it on one thing, which can give me multiple options, multiple things, like my smartphone, right? It'd be like buying a phone that can only do phone calls because that's the only one that's accessible. Whereas I'd rather have a smartphone that's accessible and can do lots of different things. And therefore the cost, ideally, comes down in price as well. And it would do with this headset. So I can see the reading apps, the magnification, all the kind of beneficial apps that kind of exist inside these more expensive headsets that you'd have to buy, going into something like this. And this might be the better platform. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but when it comes to Braille especially, whenever I hear about a Braille device, with the exception of one or two, most of them run Android. And a lot of specialist devices in our community run Android. You think about the Sense Player. You think about, I think the Victor Reader Stream now runs a version of it to some degree. I think that the Orbit Player is running a version of Android as well. The Braille Sense, is it not Braille Sense? The Braille Note Touch runs Android. A number of the HIMS, well, what was HIMS Braille displays, now Selvis, they now run Android. So, you can see that a lot of technology in our world uses Android, developed for Android. It wouldn't be a huge leap to suggest. And it also, by the way, when you talk about a lot of the products that are out there from magnification companies, they're running off Android as well. Samsung tablets actually were used in many of the HumanWare products for many, many times, and others. So, Android's been around in some ways a lot more inside the specialist tech community. So in a way, it's the hardware itself that's never been the reality for those providers, right? They've had to create their own. Now the technology is going to exist. If you can build all of your apps and services into a headset, that could start to bring the cost of specialist technology, certain specialist tech, down. Not Braille, obviously. Let's take that out of the equation. But, those low vision solutions could be there could be potential here.
Yeah, those wearable magnifiers are going to be looking on nervously at this sort of technology, and for good reason.
Yeah, but maybe not. This is the mistake, I think. I mean, it's like we had this Orcam discussion as well with Orcam. The fear is that, well, all these companies will just collapse. Get smart. Start building for the platform. Make your service available on there. Yeah, that's how you keep your company alive. You don't just say, well, that's it, we're done. You could actually think, well, we could cut down the money we spend on hardware, build into this existing hardware. I mean, what, are you saying that any company that decided to, move towards an app on an iPhone lost out as a result? I don't think so.
No, but there's a lot more competition in the hardware market with things like Orcam. It's as we talked, it's very specialized, right? Once you
but that could be an app, couldn't it?
It could be an app competing with other apps. And we're talking about Apple Sherlocking other, complete sectors of app development when it comes to, hey, now you can do this, on your, which comes default with your iPhone now. You don't need a specialist app. It's exactly the same with this sort of stuff. If you're using a wearable video magnifier because you want, the ability to zoom in or high contrast, and that comes as a default accessibility feature with the Samsung headset, how do you compete with that? Well, you've got to do it better.
Yeah, you got to do it better. But I think you just got to build. I mean, look, first off, one of the big complaints that we have in our world is that when Android is involved in a lot of the technology, especially Braille technology, right? It's always old tech. It's old Android. It's never the latest. So, this is giving you the opportunity to, again, not with Braille necessarily, but with other low vision tech, you can get access to the latest hardware, the latest software, and you're building for that platform. It seems a better way to operate, but
you know what it is,
we shall
though?
see.
People just aren't going to wear headsets. I'm sorry, unless they come out and it's a really significant change in the form factor that it's close to glasses. People aren't going to wear these headsets. In the mainstream, at least, it's the mainstream that's going to run this. Make it if it's viable or not. Look at the discussion we had about thin phones. If there's not huge sales of this, then it'll be shelved.
Interesting thoughts. Well, we'll get more on those tomorrow because we will be reacting to the event tomorrow on the show, and we'll look forward to your comments
glasses
as well.
There's going to be glasses. There's my prediction.
Glasses. That'd be great.
There will be glasses.
There will be glasses.
Please, yes.
Or not, potentially. I want to talk about this one. IKEA has made a bed for your smartphone.
Okay, absolutely ridiculous. Move on.
No, this is a real story. I thought at first it was a joke, but it's real. This is a bed, a tiny little bed that sits on your nightstand, and it's got a little cover on it, so you can tuck in your smartphone away for the night, and it will charge it up for you. But also, if you leave it on and you don't take your phone out of its little bed at night, you can actually, this is ridiculous, you can get vouchers for IKEA. Basically, it's trying to convince you to keep your phone in its bed so you can raise some cash for yourself to spend in IKEA, to go in and buy candles or whatever you buy in IKEA.
I'm sorry,
these days.
is IKEA now the moral guardian of telling me, this is the nanny state,
I love
Scott.
this idea.
Don't pick up your phone when you wake up at 1 a.m., which I did last night, and then 3 hours later, doom scrolling. Oh, well, that's my time. Don't tell me what to... Back off, IKEA. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so if it was KFC vouchers...
Oh, no, that's different. Okay.
Now, unfortunately, yes.
Flat pack furniture. How long is it going to take me to put that bed together?
At least 3 days and about 100 swear words, I guarantee you. No, I will say this is only available in the United Arab Emirates. So if you're in the United Arab Emirates right now, then go to IKEA and buy one of these. But yeah, it's...
Hang on.
And I don't think you can even buy it. I think you get it when you spend over $200 in one of the stores.
Yeah, if you spend $200, you get a free phone bed that makes you not pick up your phone at night. What a great story!
It's got a little NFC reader in it, and that's how it knows that it's in there. And it also, the longer it's in there,
wireless charger,
it'll rack up your vouchers. I actually think that's quite a cool idea, if I'm honest.
It's another bed to make in the morning. Forget it.
That's true. Yeah, that is a very. But you know what? Actually, that's a good point. Get rid of it. Terrible idea. This is Double Tap. If you want to get involved with the show, here's how.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Now, Shaun, we're dipping into the archive today for a very interesting conversation I don't think we've ever brought to our YouTube audience. And so our listening audience on podcast and on AMI audio may well have heard this story before. But for those of you watching us perhaps for the first time on YouTube, maybe even those of you who've just subscribed to the podcast or just tuned into us today on AMI audio, you may not have heard this interview. And I think it's worth bringing back in today because it brings up a lot of interesting topics, interesting discussions, and frankly, a great guy as well. Judge David Tatel, who's now retired, joined us for an enlightening conversation about his career as he talked about his new book, Vision.
So my name is David Tatel, and I just retired from a federal court in the United States, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, which is generally called the nation's second highest court. I was appointed to it by President Clinton 30 years ago to fill the vacancy that had been created by his appointment of Ruth Ginsburg to the Supreme Court. I served on that court 30 years. Before that, I'll go all the way back to the beginning. I was born in Washington, D.C. I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was 15. I graduated from high school and went to the University of Michigan and then to the University of Chicago Law School. And then I started practicing law in Chicago. I twice headed a civil rights organization called the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, first in Chicago and then I headed its national office. And then during the Carter administration, I was appointed to run the Office for Civil Rights in what was then called the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, where we began for the first time enforcing the Section 504 regulations, which are the predecessor for the Americans with Disability Act. And then I left the Carter administration and joined a law firm then called Hogan and Hartson, now Hogan Lovells, which is the result of a combination of Hogan and a major British law firm. And there I practiced education law until I was appointed to the court. And during most of this time, my eyesight was declining steadily until I was in my mid-30s, at which point I couldn't read anymore. And I began to use readers, and I learned Braille. And then a few years later, bit the bullet and got a cane. And then at age 77, finally and happily got the most amazing guide dog on planet Earth. And I tell this whole story in a brand new memoir, which was published by Little Brown in early June. It's called Vision, a memoir of blindness and justice. It has a terrific audio. I read the prologue, and a dear friend of mine, a Washington actor, reads the rest of the book.
And I'm starting to get the impression I know why you found Double Tap, or what maybe you intrigued you perhaps with Double Tap, and that is, of course, with Shaun having retinitis pigmentosa. I guess there's a little bit of a brotherhood going on here.
It's the only connection we've got. I am far less intelligent, no career whatsoever. But
John, is the trajectory of your RP the same as mine?
Well, I've pretty much lost every bit of usable vision about 2 years ago now, during lockdown.
Pardon me.
So,
how old are you?
I am now 51.
Okay, yeah, you're old. You're 10 years behind me. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, with RP, it's so different. You know, some people lose it very, very quickly. Yes. Some people use it very, very gradually. I had a few, growth spurts, if you like, in losing the vision. How did you, in general? Honestly, there's so many different aspects I want to talk about here, but I will concentrate on the RP. How did you cope with that initially? Because I'm assuming you had this career path or something in law in mind from the very beginning as a teenager. So how did you cope with the RP thing? Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Well, I tell a story in some detail in the book, and which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book. So before I was officially, when I was a little kid, I could never see at night. Right, Shaun? You know that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And my parents and the eye doctors who knew nothing, the clueless eye doctors, they said, well, let him eat carrots. So I ate lots of carrots. And then by the time I was diagnosed at NIH, the National Institutes of Health, I didn't tell anybody about it. I wasn't visually disabled, except for night vision and sometimes getting hit by balls on the baseball field. I was functioning like a sighted person, but I didn't tell anybody because, what 15-year-old wants to be different from his friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To be candid, as I look back on it, I was embarrassed to have a disability like this. So I hid it as much as I could. When I started through law school and beginning practicing law, when it became more difficult to cover it up, but still possible, I kept doing that because by that time I started worrying that, I didn't know where my eyesight was going. We were told you may lose your sight, you may not. We just don't know. So I was hoping I wouldn't. And I was, again, hiding my visual disability because I was worried that it would adversely affect my desperate desire to be a civil rights lawyer. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. And I was worried that if people knew, they wouldn't hire me. So I hid it as much as I could. And in the book, I explain all the techniques I use for covering up my growing disability. many of which are funny, but all of which are totally anxiety producing. And then by the time I was in my mid-30s, I couldn't hide it anymore because it was dangerous for me to get around. So, that's when I started to learn Braille and use a reader. And even when I got my cane, which was age 37 or 38, I still didn't talk about it because I didn't want people to think I got my job. Now that I was getting jobs and in the public sector, I didn't want people to think, well, I got the job because I have a disability. I wanted people to think I got the job on the merits. And, as I look back on this experience, and you'll see when you read the book, I regret very much doing that because I missed an opportunity as I progressed and became, more important in the civil rights world of being a role model myself. I didn't have any blind role models, and by covering up my own blindness, I passed up an opportunity to let my success be inspirational to other people.
But that's not unusual at all. That story is not unusual. And I think that there are lots of us who feel that way. I certainly felt that way. I mean, I was in the same position. I was told as a kid I wouldn't lose any vision. My vision would remain as was. That didn't happen. Right. And when I would tell people, yeah, my vision's changed, they would tell me, but hang on, your vision doesn't change. That's what you've told me. And I had to sort of almost explain it, almost had to justify it. And you had to play this game. And to the extent that sometimes I just didn't want to talk about it. And for many years I didn't talk about it at all. And I'm like you, I feel I wanted to accept it or should have accepted it in hindsight. But in a way, I just couldn't.
Yeah, more shame.
We have
just what we need.
Story. It's the same story. It's just one of the reasons I didn't want to write this book. I got talked into it, but now that it's written, I'm very glad I did because I hope it will be the role model for people my age and your age when you're going through it, and it'll say to them, hey guys, it's okay to talk about it because look, you too can be a federal judge someday. I hope that's what my book does. Even more important, I hope people in law firms and corporations who hire will read this book and understand that when they're interviewing 3 people and one of them is blind, they should hire on the merits. Forget the blindness.
Yeah, agree.
So I am very late in life, Shaun, sort of accepting, looking back, that I wish I had behaved differently, but hoping this book makes up for it.
Oh, absolutely it does. I think we say this all the time on the show as well, just sharing this experience, talking honestly, because there's so much guilt and shame about this, and I feel exactly the same. What was I worried about all those years? Yeah. Was it, ashamed of being disabled? And that makes me, that seems like a terrible thing to say, but it is the honest truth.
But it's not only that though, is it? I mean, in your case, David, I'm thinking about your job and the job you're doing. You said earlier you were worried about talking. Well, maybe not so much worried, but you didn't want to talk about it because you wanted your career to thrive, and you felt that by discussing it, you would. How did you feel in your 30s when you really had to confront it? How did you feel about your career at that point?
Well, it was different then, but let me say one thing about what Shaun said. Shaun, just hearing you say, I reacted to what you just said about your own fear and embarrassment about it. It made me think, oh, okay, I wasn't alone. It wasn't just me.
No, exactly.
It's very reassuring to me to know that other people react the same I did. So thank you for saying what you did. So yes, Stephen, when it got to be, by the time I was 35, I was the director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. And I was fortunate because, I had a staff. I had people who worked for me. I had a secretary. I had an assistant. And I told them about my situation because basically I needed help. I said to my secretary one day, her name was Cheryl. I said, Cheryl, she dumped a bunch of letters on my desk. And I said, hey, Cheryl, I'm going to have to ask you to read them to me because I just can't read them anymore. And to my assistant, another young lawyer. I said, hey, Jim, his name was Jim. Hey, Jim, I have a meeting in New York next week, and I need to have you come with me because I just worry about, finding my way around or getting run over by a truck. And so I did all that. And then I thought, okay, I need to learn Braille. I found a Braille tutor in Silver Spring, Maryland named Bertha. And every week, twice a week, I took a taxi there and she taught me Braille. Taught is not the right word. I did learn it, the letters. Most important, she taught me how to type. Because I didn't learn to type when I was in junior high school. And so now, thanks to Bertha, I can use a Braille computer, but I really can't read Braille. So that's how I did it, Stephen. But then I still never talked about it. And one of the things I discovered when writing this book is I interviewed a bunch of friends who go way back to find out, what did they know and when, the famous Richard Nixon question, what did they know? What did he know? When did he know it?
Yes.
And guess what I discovered? And I'll bet anything, Shaun, you discovered the same thing, which is they weren't fooled. They all knew something was wrong with my eyesight, but they respected my desire not to talk about it. And in fact, when I became a judge, federal judges each get 4 law clerks. When the book was done and I was talking to a bunch of law clerks about the book, they said, we knew we weren't supposed to ask. That's what they knew. They knew, they knew because I was using a cane, but they knew they weren't supposed to ask, that it wasn't something Judge Tatel wanted to talk about. So anyway.
Yeah. It's almost a taboo subject. It's funny, but going through all those tricks that we used to use, we think we were getting away with it. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. We weren't. It just, there's something wrong. Yeah. But thinking back.
Did you used to follow women with high heels like I did?
Yes, but that was for other reasons. But
yes, let's not go there.
You are absolutely right. There's all these. I'm trying to think of them now. It seems so long ago, but I always remember feeling like almost a double agent. Stephen, we've talked about this before as well. When we got to when I started to mix with other visually impaired people and blind people, it felt like I didn't fit in there either. It was, I've got too much vision for this group, but not enough vision for this group. Yeah. It was almost like I was living in the fringes. And then I felt bad about that. So, it was very tricky. I must say, this also doesn't sound great to a lot of people, but since I've lost pretty much all of my usable vision, I am so much more anxiety-free. I'm so much more stress-free. I can't hide it. I don't try to hide it. There's no need to hide it. And the relief is immense.
Shaun, I tell the story in the book about finally, I was back at my law firm. I was probably late 30s by this time, and I didn't have any staff support, and I had to go to a meeting out of town, and I was panicked because I just didn't think I could do it by myself. And so I bit the bullet and got a woman. This story I tell in the book is that Edie, my wife, noticed a blind tap dancer at the community center. And Edie asked her if she would teach me how to use a cane. And so I did. I went to her house, her apartment, and she showed me how to move it sideways and tap. And then we went outside a couple times, but I only wanted to go out at night because I didn't want anybody to see me using a cane.
Yes.
But then here's what happened. I went to South Carolina by myself, and I came home, and I said to Edie, I tell this story in the book, I said to her, everything's different now. No one looks at me strangely. I can ask questions honestly about getting help. If I bump into someone, no one thinks I'm weird. It was a total release. So when you read this, Shaun, you're going to see your story in this book.
I think lots of people will, and I think that's the whole point. I mean, that it's so that feeling of isolation is a real major issue.
Yeah.
It's not so much about the problems we face because of the disability; it's almost the problems we put upon ourselves because we don't, we're in denial or grief or whatever it may be. So I think this book is a great idea.
I mean, there's so many questions I could ask you here. I mean, I honestly, there's so many things swimming around my head that I want to talk to you about. But I guess at some point, assistive tech comes into your life and you start using it every day, or you begin to start using it. What are you rocking there, David? Is it an iPhone? Is it an Android? Please tell me it's an iPhone.
It's an iPhone, I promise.
Hey, you can stay.
Yeah, okay. I heard your discussion the other day about Android versus iOS. I love my iPhone. I really do. It's made such a difference to me. It's so reliable, and I've gotten a whole bunch of ideas about apps from you guys. So I'm a big iPhone. I use a Braille Sense computer.
Okay. Right.
And a Victor reader. Those are my three major devices. The iPhone has 1 billion customers, right? They can put the money into a device that works flawlessly, whereas our blind community is just too small to support the kind of technology, the dedicated technology we need. The great thing to me about the iPhone is they didn't make it for us, right? It's for everybody else, but it works for us. I love that part of the iPhone, and I can use it like anybody else. And if I had learned to type, part of this is self-inflicted. I've seen blind law clerks, much younger than I am, who are good typists, and they can function with a regular laptop and JAWS just as effectively as a sighted lawyer. It's amazing for me to watch. And if I learned to type in the 9th grade, I think my technology life would have been much better.
That's so interesting. Yeah. We've had exactly this conversation before, but in reverse. When I went to, I'll use the term again, blind college, I was forced to learn touch typing. I hated every single second of it, but it absolutely changed my life. Touch typing has been so incredibly useful to me.
Yeah.
But now, when it comes to Braille, I'm sort of, I don't know if I can put myself through that. I think I've left it too late. I'm not sure if I can ever pick it up to a level where it's going to be that useful to me. And do you not consider teaching or learning touch typing now at this stage?
What I should have done, instead of going to that Braille tutor, I should have gotten typing lessons. Hindsight's 20/20, right? So
yes,
but I didn't do it. Every time I say to my wife, "Hey, Edie, I think I'll learn to type," she sort of shakes her head and said, "It's just going to be too frustrating for you. Your fingers are going to be on the wrong keys." I've gone so far. 2 years ago, I got the court when I was still at the court. They gave me a laptop set up with a typing tutorial on it. And I decided, okay, I'm going to learn to type. And I spent about half an hour and decided I'd rather read a book. I mean, it was just, I couldn't even get started.
It's the same with anything, though. There is that learning curve, isn't it?
I was the same at school. I remember typing on an electronic typewriter. That's what we had at school.
Yes.
And they would actually put a piece of A4 paper over our hands so that we couldn't see what we were typing. I mean, the irony was too much, frankly. But, they'd put that piece of paper over, and that meant I could learn to type. And I will say it was the best thing I ever learned. Now, I talk a lot about Braille learning at school. For low vision kids, and even for kids like yourself, like me, who were perhaps considered by our teachers at the time to have enough vision to get by, so therefore you don't need something like Braille. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that, I know we're putting a lot on kids if we're talking about teaching them all the things they have to learn, plus typing, plus learning Braille, plus this, plus that, plus maths, plus English, plus all, it's all, but equally as a kid, that's when you're going to keep that stuff in. That's when that stuff is going to be cemented in there. Yeah. And, the typing for you would have been great. What about Braille? Where do you sit on that? Do you think your life would be different if you had learned Braille at that early stage?
Gee, Stephen, I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, it's not like you haven't been successful, right? So you managed without it, right?
Turned out okay.
Without it, would I have been successful? When I went to the National Federation of the Blind meeting last Monday to talk about my book, and Edie she kept poking me when she saw people reading Braille. She's like, "Oh, it's amazing what they're doing with the." I mean, I have the Braille bumps. I have the Braille on my Braille Sense here, which I never use. And she saw people getting speeches with it. And she was saying, "Oh, that's really impressive what they're able to do." And she's totally right. Here's what I think. I think had I known then that the world would go digital in big time in my lifetime, I would have just wanted to type, because I think blind people can type. And I don't want to get into a political debate here. I'm just talking about myself. If I could type, I could do anything. I don't need Braille. Because, if I could type and use a regular laptop, it would be like my iPhone. I would be using a device that's designed for everybody, and I would just be using it as a blind person that's what I would like best. If I could recreate my life, that's what I would do.
That's very interesting. I mean, and look, it is all very individual. Of course, you're absolutely right. There are people out there who love Braille and who, couldn't function without it. I think they would tell you that, I guess.
What? Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that. I think I would have been one of those people too, if I'm honest, had I learned it as a child. I think you probably would have been the same as well, because it was in your mind at that time. Yeah. But of course, we didn't have it then. Yeah. And like Shaun, like you've been saying, it's hard to pick it up at this age. It's hard to do it because your brain just isn't the same. It's less spongy and more a concrete brick, especially in Shaun's case.
Can't argue.
All the complaining we're doing about technology, at least to me, it's important to say technology has, it is a lot easier to be blind now than it was 30, 40 years ago. Here's the example I give for how technology has helped me. When I started on the court in 1994, I had a full-time reader and a backup reader. And I had 1 1/3 people reading for me. And they read everything to me. The morning papers, the briefs, opinions, they read everything. The court went digital. We got text-to-speech technology. In the last year on the court, I had a reader. She spent 5% of her time reading to me. Today, I don't have a reader. I can read everything myself now. I think that's quite dramatic. And what's especially good about it to me is it gives me this huge feeling of independence. I can pick something up and read it when I want to. And I don't have to ask someone to read it to me. Yesterday, we had a decision from a court that I needed to read, and a legal assistant here just sent it to me on email. I moved it to my voice dream reader app, and boom, I was reading.
It has been such an honor to speak to you. And I've honestly had a great time talking to you. You are now officially my favorite judge in America, closely followed, of course, by Judge Judy. Do you know Judge Judy?
No.
Oh, I was kind of hoping you two were best friends. You're going to tell me some amazing stories.
I'm happy to be your favorite judge, even if I'm the only judge you know.
How did you know that? David, it's been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell people about the book once again and where they can get it.
Yes. The book is called Vision, a Memoir of Blindness and Justice. And you can get it at your local bookstore or on Amazon. And I think for listeners of Double Tap, there's a QR code that gives you a discount. And also from Audible, you can get a really, really good Audible version of it. And for anybody who listens and gets to the end, there's a surprise.
Oh, interesting.
Very good.
I like that.
Yeah.
That'll bring people in.
Scott and Shaun, Stephen and Shaun, it's been a huge pleasure for me to talk to you guys this morning. So thank you. I've loved this.
Thank you so much. Good luck with the book. And, don't be a stranger. Come back soon.
I won't, and someday I'm going to come visit you.
Even better.
All right.
Love it.
Good. Enjoy the day.
Wonderful to talk to Judge David Tatel there, and actually an interview that many have requested to hear again. So glad we could accommodate that. But what a wonderful guy, and a great book as well. And you can get that code still on our website. It is available at doubletaponair.com. That is it from us today. A lot of pertinent points there in David's talk, and I've got to say in particular around the cost of technology, and can the specialist tech market be sustainable? Great conversations we had into tomorrow's show, following on from the conversation we had earlier about the Google headset, the Samsung and Google headset coming out. More on that on tomorrow's show. Until then, bye-bye. Bye-bye, Shaun.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Get out.